We continue our knowledge sharing mission through a series of interviews with marketing leaders from all over the world. And today we are thrilled to have Gabriel Madureira with us today.
Hi, I'm Gabriel. I lead marketing for Azion.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your role at Azion?
Yes, I'm the CMO at Azion. I'm been in the tech space for a while, leading different types of marketing teams, especially in developer tool companies. And here at Azion, I'm leading the marketing team, helping the company scale and grow across different verticals. So we are a platform for you to build, scale, and secure applications, and have been kind of creating a whole new space in the market throughout the years.
How did you get into marketing and how did you end up becoming the CMO at Azion?
So I'm an engineer. I've been engineer for a long period before actually joining a marketing organization or getting excited about marketing. But as soon as I started working with marketing and sales and go-to-market, I saw that connecting those two things together, it's a beauty that really fascinates me because you can get all the data and specificity that engineers have, but all the love and care and characteristics that a marketer have, and really find a very nice spot. I joined Azion because I was advising the company before, and then I was invited to become the CMO to really recreate the marketing organization inside the company.
Marketing leaders often have to balance multiple priorities. So if you had to choose one or two that would define your team's focus, what would they be? And why are they important to your company's growth and success?
Yeah, so I always like to have my teams looking at company metrics and focusing on business goals. So whenever I think about kind of how marketing can influence the company, I'm looking at pipeline, I'm looking at revenue, I'm looking at reducing churn, accelerating our go-to-market strategies. That's where I'm looking for when I'm putting goals to my team. That's the role of marketing, in my opinion, is you have to help the company move forward. You are not just like an accessory department that is doing some flashy stuff that people are just getting excited. You really need to make the business move forward.
What would you say is your biggest challenge at the moment?
I think the biggest challenge of all the marketers at the moment is really rethinking all their playbooks. Like AI is kind of level setting the game for everyone, where everyone has access to tools that before just the more specialized marketers had. And now everyone has to rethink playbooks that are simply not working anymore. Like AI, LLMs are changing how people search, how people navigate the web, how people consume products. And many of the channels we had, like mail and advertising, simply don't work anymore. So reinventing those channels, I think that's the biggest challenge for all the marketers around right now.
On one hand, the biggest challenge is also the biggest opportunity.
It is for sure. Every time you think about, I think any profession, but especially marketing, you have a lot of people that are doing the basics. And I think AI is simply giving them the basics right away. So I think the difference is on how do you use AI to actually differentiate yourself and create unique, crafted experiences at scale, something that was like marketers were doing that by hand with ABM a while back, but now they can do that at a much higher scale and at a much lower cost. So really finding kind of what's the sweet spot for the use of AI and how to leverage AI for the things that are just like busy work and you don't need to be losing time with. I think that's what's going to differentiate one marketer from another.
Yeah. I recently came across a little bit off topic. One of my friends started working for a company where you prompt AI and it will video generate an ad for you and it'll help create your whole campaign. And it was shocking to think that now you don't even need a crew to film anything. You can just type in what you want and it'll create your ad.
And we have a lot of crazy stuff that you can do with AI today. I think the difference is still in the thinking behind that prompt and what is actually that you want to talk about and where you were actually putting that video on and how consistent that the rest of your brand and how engaging that is for the end user experience. Because especially with AI, we live in a world of noise right now. Everyone is getting bombarded with all those videos, all those outbound emails that are somewhat customized and so on. I think what really creates differentiation is when people can see that your brand is authentic, that they can trust your brand, that they understand your product, that your narrative is consolidated, that they have a community around that all like your company and like what you're doing. That's the type of thing that differentiate. Again, you could generate like a video, as anyone can generate a video right now. What you do with it and what is that video about and what is the intention behind that video is what I think really changed the game from one to another.
Yeah. So what would you say you're doing right now to differentiate yourself?
I think first is deeply understanding technology, really getting deep into how those platforms work and what are the nuances and what's the latest stage of kind of the technology. Every time we think about kind of the use of softwares and the use of skills, it's something that kind of my engineering background comes very, very handy to really get deep and really tune in those models. Like there are a lot of variables that you can use to tune in the tone and the voice and the language and how direct, how interact. It's going to be your answer, your analysis, your video, your audio. So really getting crisp answers and crisp executions out of the things that we're doing. The other thing is making sure that we are doing purposeful things, that we're really thinking through why we're doing things and not just throwing trash out of every channel we have, because that creates noise, that dilutes the brand, that dilutes our message, and there is an attention span that you can get from your audience. If we're using that with like wrong type of messaging or wrong type of ads or communication, you're just losing momentum and you're just losing your time.
Yeah, yeah. Slop is what they use for it. So let's talk about your audience. Who is your ICP? Which topics are they most interested in? And are there any campaigns or initiatives that have really resonated with them or driven outstanding results?
Yeah, so we're talking to a developer audience, so a technical audience. We're talking to developers. We're talking to security folks. We're talking to infrastructure people. That's kind of our ICP. That's the type of companies we engage in, type of people we engage in those companies. They have a very different type of communication than other industries and other folks because they're technical. They want direct communication. They want you to be trustworthy. They want you to understand deeply and technically what you're talking about. So they don't like marketing fluff and exaggerations and things that are just like there are no backing or no proof that you can show. So really understanding that audience and kind of crafting messages and crafting campaigns for them, it's a different skill. I've been doing that for a while, but I think the biggest thing that I've learned is you have to be authentic, and they have to understand that you are generally trying to help them, not simply go there to sell them something and give them something. So really finding that sweet spot between giving them and kind of showcasing value to them right away versus showcasing a product, a concept, or an idea that they might not have familiarity with. I think that's the beauty, and that's kind of the exercise that we're doing every day. And when we're running campaigns, we're doing that. When we're thinking about our communication channels, when we're thinking about how we expose our brand from a design perspective, all those things are connected into how we want that technical audience, that developer, that CISO, that CTO to look at our company and feel that they belong to working with us, that they are somewhat in their same environment, and that we can talk and behave the way that they expect.
What would you say is the most effective channel to reach that audience? Because it sounds a little bit niche into my ears, to the untrained ear.
The developer audience is niche in terms of the whole globe, but it's gigantic. So like the software market is one of the biggest markets in the world. And that's what drives all that audience. I think the biggest thing is understanding that you have to focus and not simply use broad marketing and broad marketing tactics for them. So you have to use community a lot. You have to use documentation a lot. You have to use influencers a lot as a way of engaging with this kind of audience, much more than advertising or TV or outdoors and kind of more traditional media. So you have to use Discord, that is where they're talking. You have to use Twitter, that's where they're talking. You're not going to be on Facebook because that's not where they are. Yeah. So you have to find exactly what are the channels that your audience is using on a daily basis, and then be there and be helpful to them.
So you find Discord communities. Well, one of these strategies would be finding Discord communities and going in almost like a Reddit threads and engaging in threads, like social selling, maybe the way you would do on LinkedIn, where you answer, like, talk on posts and engage.
Yeah.
I've not really been very active on Discord myself.
Yeah, Discord, Reddit, Stack Overflow was big up to months ago. Uh, GitHub as well is it's an environment of itself. So really understanding those areas and kind of how do you insert yourself into the conversations again in a proactive way, in a way that you are helping the community, that you are helping people, and then people get to know your brand, and naturally they will go to your website, they will naturally go and visit your product, and you start seeing the momentum of awareness grow.
Yeah.
uh, any direct approach, anything that is more like forced to a developer audience, they will reject right away. So it has to be a very nuanced, long-term engagement and providing value out of them.
Yeah. Yeah. I've had a number of experiences myself. I think there was a strategy that I found where there's sales teams which spend 30 minutes to even more per day simply going on LinkedIn. I'm extremely active on LinkedIn, or I try to be active on LinkedIn,
Mhm.
commenting, going in groups, commenting, and engaging. It's a defined part of every single day in the schedule. So you're doing it on Discord as well.
Yes, they have to do that on the channels with our audiences.
Okay, let's talk about marketing's relationship with sales.
Mhm.
All marketing initiatives you're in charge of, which one has your sales department traditionally been more grateful for or excited about?
I think are the ones that we are working together. I think many times marketers are doing campaigns and are launching initiatives. They're disconnected from the sales reality of that moment. So marketing has always two angles. You are working for the short term to help sales to close the pipeline and the quarter, and you are working on building up an awareness, building up a brand that is going to kind of pay out throughout the years. Normally, what I see my sales team engaging more and kind of happier with our engagement is when we can balance those two things well. Is when we can help them and be the partner that is bringing an event that they can close something. It's bringing content and collateral when they need it. It's bringing a good brand and a good solid message that they can pitch to their customers, as well as having the backing of like a long-standing campaign plan, long-standing awareness infrastructure that is kind of giving them the ability to get to a customer, and the customer says, "Oh yes, I already know you. I already know. I've already seen this thing," and that kind of it's so strong in terms of how much of the sales uh, conversion and the sales approach that becomes much easier because of that. So really, what I see success in terms of like marketing and sales relationship is when the balance is pretty well established and sales understands the duality of the work in marketing and it's happy with the functions that are happening, both short term and long term.
This makes me visualize a diagram which has sales here, marketing here, and then two arrows which are going like this in a circle. Yes,
Yes.
that's what I'm visualizing. Okay, 2025 has come to a close. How did it go? And what was the most successful or engaging strategy that you had for 2025?
Yeah, so it was a great year for us. We grew, we beat our goals. We grew as much as we wanted to. I think the biggest thing to me was really creating a marketing team that can scale and finding the right playbooks and the viral loops that we can actually keep running and running and running for a while. So I don't like hacks. I don't like very short term things that you are doing that maybe you get a blip and you get a good number this month, but you cannot reproduce. So this was something that we invested a lot in 2025 was actually building repeatable motions that we can expand. On top of that is making sure that they are cost effective, that they are repeatable, that we can use that in different geographies, different markets, different segments. So building those playbooks was something that was very interesting to do in 2025. And I'm happy to say that in 2026, now we have many more playbooks and they are more effective than they were in 2025. So now it's more like, okay, keep expanding on those, but keep researching, keep doing experimentation, keep kind of
Yeah.
digging through to see what else is out there. So that was kind of the biggest I think, challenge and the biggest milestone of the year is to really amplify the tactics that we have and the levers that we can pull and really understand them more. Like, okay, if I put money in this tactic, what happens on the funnel? What happens with my brand? What if I double down? What if I pull it back? What happens? So having control is also something very important in that sense.
Building the system and figuring out what tweaks, if you move this here, what goes up, what goes down. And so you've built everything out, and now you get to continue to execute and improve on this machine that you've already constructed.
Exactly. Yeah.
Amazing. So we're coming to a close. Got a couple more questions. How would you describe the role of the CMO in one word, and why?
I think it's a trust builder. It's a person that has to somehow create a brand, has to create a product in the market, has to showcase that this company is trustworthy and it's worth your time to talk, to think, to read about this company. I think that's the biggest thing. If it's a company that doesn't connect with its audience, the CMO is not doing a great job. So I think kind of getting someone to really look and aspire to be close to you, and that's the type of thing that it's the core of the role of a CMO today.
What career advice would you give to anyone starting in marketing?
I think it's first, don't try to specialize in marketing very quickly. Make sure you test it out, kind of all the different areas of marketing, and become like a generalist in this space, because marketing, different from other areas, everything happens like as a group. Channels have help each other, campaigns help each other. So it's never like, oh, just this one thing that we did that actually solved the problem. So really understanding the value of the mix and understanding how can you run things more horizontally, it's super interesting, especially in the beginning of your career. So my suggestion is to start kind of poking around and playing different aspects of marketing, and then later on you find your path and you find the area that you have the most interest in.
Last question for you. If you could ask marketing leaders such as yourself one question, what would it be?
How do you keep reinventing yourself? How can you retransform yourself every year? Because as we grow, as we get older, there's this tendency that every person has of like sticking to their old playbooks, or sticking to the things that we know that worked and we have tested before and we have knowledge, and kind of learning from other people how they recreate themselves and rethink the things that they do. It's something that I'm always looking for inspiration. I'm always looking for ways to learn, because that's the biggest challenge that I think a leader has today, is making sure that you are always up to date and you are always rethinking deeply your core to see the things that you have in terms of values, skills, learnings, and so on is the right ones, if you need to find other things. So kind of removing yourself of that comfort zone. So different people have different tactics for that, and learning different ways is something that I'm always curious about.